All right, the Bucks. It is Talking Buccaneers with me, my name is Sisinyani. And yeah, I'm outside Orlando Stadium. As you can see, Orlando Stadium behind me. And one thing's for sure, every time that I'm out here, it's because there is a big occasion. The big occasion this time is not necessarily the magnitude of fixture itself, but it's rather that there is an occasion. Finally, football has been away for a long time. We've been talking about it, we've been thinking about it, but now finally we're going to see it in the way of, professional, organized, fixtures, not friendly matches and stuff like that. I don't know if that's how you say it, professional, organized, but you know what I mean. We've been watching a lot of preseason, and actually preseason is a lot of what's going to form my thoughts in this video. But we've been watching that and we've been itching to come back in the stadium and actually support the guys and actually get the season underway. As always, the season starts with an MTN8 quarterfinal if you are not Kaizer Chiefs, if you're Orlando Pirates. So we will be out here playing Polokwane City, who finished 7th above Kaizer Chiefs. And so we've been drawn against them, 7th versus 2nd for us. And yeah, I think it's going to be a test. It's going to be a test because, one, the opening fixture of every season is always a test because you wonder, you think, has the preparation gone well enough? We haven't settled into some kind of rhythm, especially for competitive football. We haven't settled into the rhythm. And the opposition might just catch us off guard. We don't know what to expect from them as well. So, there's always something to say about the opening fixture, which is, yes, you are the so-called bigger team or you are the better team. You've got the better quality players and that sort of thing. But you could just be surprised by an opposition who got to witness and watch us playing our preseason. We, the fans, didn't get to watch them. I'm sure Orlando Pirates did their homework in terms of sending some analysts and things like that, people working to kind of find out what is actually happening at Polokwane City, maybe basing a lot of things from last season, looking at the continuity of the squad, what really can we expect. In reality, in truth, the quality is the thing that is telling ultimately, which is that Pirates have the better players. If they do the right things on the day, the quality is the more telling thing, But the reason, again, I think I always say this, is why we love football is the so-called smaller team can beat the bigger team. That's why we love the sport. That's why we follow it so much. That's why there's a lot of narratives and a lot of big matches, great matches that we've witnessed in the past where you were so-called the underdog, but you ended up winning it. So that's all to say that, there is a narrative in which, because this is the first game of the season, because it happens in football, we could crash out of the MTN8. But all things equal, I do expect that when we do come out here on Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m., we're going to progress to the next round, which is the semi-finals. That's just my expectation. I think and I hope that the boys do the business. Now, before I kind of get into my expectations for the game, especially in the way of maybe a little bit of tactics or formations and things like that, and talking more to what we can expect in view of Orlando Pirates and preseason and things like that. Before I get into that, I obviously do want to give a shout out to Nkosinathi BC. I want to give a shout out to Sipho Shane. I want to give a shout out to Mufugeng Makaula. I know I'm probably forgetting someone, but at the time of recording last night, we saw that they walked away with Accolades in the PSL. They walked away with awards and things like that for spectacular performances last season. Mbegezeli Mbokazi is another one, and yeah, I know there are 7 Buccaneers who walked away with accolades, or we walked away with 7 accolades. But point being, I just want to congratulate them. I do want to say honors and upwards for them. I think it would be unfair for me, or it wouldn't be right for me to make this video without saying that. The other thing, today, again, at the time of recording this morning, the Pirates came out with a club statement to announce the club captain and his deputies for the upcoming season. They said the captain and vice captains of the 25-26 season. So yeah, in as long as Nkosinathi Sibisi is contracted to Pirates this season, in as long as Thapelo Qoki is contracted to Orlando Pirates, in as long as Mbegezeli Mbokazi is contracted to Orlando Pirates, they are going to be the man with the armband. And I'm not massively disappointed. I'm not disappointed at all. Let me just put that out there. I can say that I didn't expect that, just to kind of give my view and my opinion of that. I mean, Nkosinathi Sibisi, you see him in a lot of the media work that Orlando Pirates does. You see him speaking a lot, and not only that, I think you can kind of tell, in as much as you can see what's happening in the club, in the way of what they put out, what the club puts out, and what you see of the interactions and things like that, even just like sort of his responsibility on the pitch, you can tell that he's a leader at Orlando Pirates. So in light of Nkosinathi Sibisi, I'm not massively surprised. I think before everything kind of went haywire with Thapelo Qoki in the way of like his performances, I did think he would be like the natural progression to being the captain. Not that I wanted Thapelo Qoki, don't get me wrong, to be the captain. Not that I would be massively disappointed if he was. I'm just saying that, judging off of like previous seasons and the fact that a lot of the time he was deputy to Maela, and I specifically think about the season before the previous season, when Qoki was even taking penalties and that sort of thing. It looked like he was the one who was the leader ahead of Nda, who we saw ended up taking over captain's arm belt. I think we saw Sesani as well wear the captain's arm belt. But towards the latter stages of last season, obviously Sibisi emerged in the way of like performances, and I might even add he emerged as the leader of the group. And Mbegezeli Mbokazi, surprise package for us. Not because we didn't think he was talented, but rather in how quickly he would hit the ground running. But on top of that, to then be promoted, like to graduate from the DDC team to the first team, to then graduate to dominate the first team, and graduate to play in the national team, and then graduate to being the leader at 20 years old. I mean, that's a very young age, 20 years old, And when you think about some of the people he's going to be the leader of, Makehleni Makaula, Sipho Shane, who I must admit, those were the 2 names that I would have put forward in terms of captaincy. Maybe the third one being Olisanda, and maybe if we did the Barcelona thing and have 4 captains, then I'd probably throw in Thabiso Sesane. And that is my bias. So it's my bias because I do think that Sesane and Da for me still hold a special place in terms of being one of the best centre-backs at the club. They definitely rank in the top 3 for me in terms of just like quality, But of course, there's more to it. Sibisi is a leader. He galvanizes the team and that sort of thing. So I'm not massively disappointed. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that, congratulations to the 3 guys. Congratulations to Sibisi. It's a reward for his application, his character, his leadership. Thapelo Qoki, again, not playing a lot, but still recognized as a leader of men at Orlando Pirates. Mbegezeli Mbokazi, I think for him, he's the biggest one that I want to congratulate at his tender age, to say, onwards and upwards, to continue kind of in the vein of like discipline and hard work and great performances for Orlando Pirates, but to also kind of keep the head down and be humble about everything. I wonder, I think there's something to learn for him. I would like, if he doesn't have to take an advice from me, just a mere podcaster or YouTuber, but if I were to dish out unsolicited advice to Mbegezeli Mbokazi, what I would say is, I would say to him, he needs to learn how to lead people that are older than him or, you know, more experienced than him. How does he do it without unsettling or rather kind of disrespecting people that have been there, done that, you know? But at the same time, I mean, to kind of like steal a quote from the Bible in 1 Timothy, is not to be despised of his youth. Age doesn't necessarily equate wisdom. Young players can be wise. So that's kind of my word to Mbokazi. I would say, don't let, you know, the fact that people have been there, done that, let that despise you of your youth. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Don't let people despise you of your youth. You have been chosen for a reason, and you best steward that with like care, responsibility, respect, humility, but also boldness and confidence and courage, and understanding that it's by your merits that you are where you are. Anyway, kind of going into the game now. I don't think there's a lot to say, but I do want to predict the starting 11. Now, in the previous video before this one, have proposed what I kind of would go with in the way of like the best Pirates 11, but what I am predicting here is not my favorite 11 or the best Pirates 11. It's based on the evidence, based on like logic and reasoning. I want to propose what I think Abdeslam Ouaddou will go for. Something I do want to say is that I think the preseason it gave us very little, or maybe for me, maybe you guys were able to take a lot out of that, but it gave me very little, and I put out like a post, a tweet, kind of speaking, even on Instagram, I had it on the stories, and what I said was, like, how do you feel about going into the season not being entirely sure what is Abdeslam Ouaddou's best 11? Now, that's not a question of like, who are the best players, but rather, what does he look like he thinks the best 11 are, based on some kind of momentum in the way of like lineups. I think what we've seen is a wholesale of changes. Now, of course, I'm not naive. I understand that preseason is about fitness and he only had 4 games and that sort of thing. But I think for him, I thought the duty and the responsibility coming into Pirates, knowing that he has 5 games before he plays a decisive match, is he would have quickly said, I need to get as quickly as I can to my best 11 so that I give them the momentum for the first game of the season. So when we play Polokwane, it's not still got a feeling of like people still trying to find fitness. Of course they will be. They haven't played an entire season. This is only the first competitive game, but I do think that there are sort of like mitigating things that you can do to put yourself in the best position that when you play the first game, it doesn't feel like you are still trying to figure things out. And in light of that, what I've just said is, I've been asking myself, what really is Abdeslam Ouaddou's first 11? Because it's hard for me to tell. I think we saw a lot of combination. We saw a lot of experiments. We saw a lot of people played in different roles and things like that, you know. Case in point, we saw Mufukeng play on the left and the right. We saw Patrick Maswanganyi play as a number 10 and as a right wing. We saw Evidence Mahopa play on the right. Snodkolo Kwaiba, we saw him on the right. We saw him in the center as a second striker. We saw Mbegezeli Mbokazi as center back and as a left back. And yeah, just like in light of all of that, Kabelo Dlamini, we saw him as a 10. We saw him a bit doing like what he always does, which is almost like a deep-lying playmaker. I fear to say 6, because when you say 6, people think combative, ball-winning, destroyer kind of midfield, not recognizing that, I mean, you can play 6 in a very different way, in the way of like a playmaker, you know, but still playing 6. And yeah, we saw him kind of doing 6, 10, and so it's now like kind of put this thing in me to say, I don't know what like Abdeslam Ouaddou's first 11 is going to be come first game of the season. And the tweet that I put out was, how do you guys feel about that? Because I'm sure he'll be best prepared, but in my sort of, limited view of these things, which obviously I'm not a professional football person, I don't work for Orlando Pirates, and why should I? I'm not as good as the people that are working there. But in my view, I go, so how are things going to work out when we go into the first game and we don't have that momentum? My brain, my limited brain says, when you get into the first game of the season, of preseason, you want to have built something and coming with that thing and going, okay, yes, we might tinker it here and there. Yes, we might, switch things up a little bit just to keep the element of surprise. However, there needs to be some thread and some evidence of continuity coming into the first game. And because of that reason, it's been hard for me to think what is going to be Ouaddou's best 11, or first 11 rather. And here I am, I'm going to guess. And I'm admitting it is a guess, but it is one that is like informed by what I did see. And yeah, obviously where I want to start off is goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper picks himself, Sipho Shane. I think another one who is a leader at Pirates, especially, I think I might have mentioned this in one of the videos, that something I heard a lot in preseason was Sipho Shane barking instructions, sort of like Tim, telling people where to be, telling midfielders where to be, especially when he was now on the bench watching the game. He was busy dragging people around with instructions to say, okay, release now, okay, drop, cover him, that sort of thing. So I think Shane, there's a lot of talk around people saying that Zaza should overtake Shane because of his ball playing abilities and that sort of thing. But I really think it's going to be a long time before we see that. Sipho Shane would have to commit like serious howlers, and Zaza would have to, in the opportunities that he gets, to seriously impress, to see a leader being dropped, especially a leader who just won goalkeeper of the season. And so I think it's reasonable to think that we're going to see at goalkeeper Sipho Shane. I think at left back, yes, we did see Mbogazi play there, but it's reasonable to think that we're going to see Dion Hotto play at left back. At centre back, I think we're going to see the centre back pairing continuing from last season. The captains of the club, Sbisi and Mbogazi. Mbogazi as a left-sided centre back, Sbisi as the right-sided one. Interesting with that because we've seen a lot of Mbogazi go long and Sbisi go long in pre-season. I think, the centre backs were playing these diagonals where we'd kind of, build up and would be kind of on the right side of our build up, and then would see a really quick direct going switch of attack to the left side where Hotto would be really high up and Mfukeng a bit tucked in, and would try to get that width from Hotto and stretch the opposition as well, horizontally as well as vertically. Well, vertically, because Hotto would be high up, stretch the defense of Granada, but also kind of stretch them as wide as possible, going from the centre back or from the right back straight to Hotto. So I wonder if, because we've seen Mbogazi do that sort of thing, that's going to inform who we see at right wing. And that has been kind of like the headache for me to think, what is he really going to go with? Who is he going to go with at right wing? But I'll get to that. And then at right back, obviously we saw Mashilwani play there. We've seen Shandu play there as well. But I think reasonably, Dino van Rooyen, because of just reputation, is probably going to start at right back. And that's the only reason why I say Dino van Rooyen. I think it is still much of a coin toss at right back, especially even throwing in the name of Mashilwani there at right back, who was showing glimpses of owning a bit of the Pirates shirt in pre-season. And so, but I think reasonably for me, I think we might see Dino van Rooyen there because he is a bit of a household name, especially at right back. There's been a lot of talking about him as second best right back in the country. And for that reason, I think we might see Dino van Rooyen. And then I think the double pivots has been another one that has been hard for me. Well, the first one is I very much think we will see Sipho Mbule, who played a lot also in pre-season, and he consistently played in the same position. And so for that reason, I think we're going to see him there. We're going to see him as one of the sixes. But alongside him, I think someone who was like a marvel to watch, someone who was a revelation for us. I mean, obviously we know of him from Stellenbosch, but him coming to Orlando Pirates and him and Sipombule kind of playing next to each other in that first game and doing so well in that first half, I think that was like quite a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. And for that reason, I think because of how responsible Sihle Nduli is on the ball and just how mobile he is as well, how available he is as well in the midfield to receive pass, and his attempt to progress the play as well. I very well think we might see Sihle Nduli, but for me, I think it's still a coin toss between Sihle Nduli and Talent Mbata. I think Talent Mbata has lost a bit of reputation with Orlando Pirates fans, but here's something that I always say, and I'm willing to put my head on the chopping block with this opinion, and the opinion is I've seen Talent Mbata play very, very well for Orlando Pirates. Some of the things that he's criticized for, i.e. his passing, his receiving in tight spaces, turning and progressing the play for Pirates, picking up pockets of space to receive from the center backs and progress play. That's the sort of thing that we've seen Talent Mbata do well. In fact, it's the sort of compliments that people had for him at the start of last season. And so that kind of thing for me buys someone like Mbata grace. If I've seen him do it, I know that, in the course of a season, he might start fumbling and making mistakes and that sort of thing. But if I've seen him capable of doing it, I'm willing to have a bit more grace with him. And especially if he's 24 years old, I do think that, start of a new season, fresh objectives, fresh perspectives, fresh challenges, with the challenge of Sihle Nduli, that kind of thing, it can put fire under someone's behind. And for that reason, I do still think that Talent Mbata has a bit of reputation at Pirates because of like how he hit the ground running when he came to Pirates. Obviously, this is a new coach who believes in maybe different players. He came obviously with Masindi Nemtajera from Marumo Gallants and that sort of thing. But, seeing that there are still like coaches who were at Pirates, who still are in the spell or in the kind of purple patch of Talent Mbata. I think those kind of things, they do buy him a bit of like time. I would say that I think someone like Mandla Ngqikazi could whisper in the ear of Abdeslam Ouaddou to say, if Mbata is at it, this is what you can get from him. How do we then minimize all of his errors? How do we get him to perform at that level? Because again, I always speak of this to say, I have a bit of grace with 22-year-olds who show a lot of potential or who have shown that they've got potential. I've got like 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds. I've got a lot of grace who still have a contract for the next 3 years. Because in my head, I go, he could still pick it up. And for someone like Makaula, I appreciate him. I appreciate him a lot. I appreciate Sihle Nduli a lot. And I want to say that first, because I'm not going to cancel it by what I'm about to say. But a 29-year-old, a 36-year-old, I go, yes, you can have him in the squad. Yes, he can be a key player in the squad. But you've got to then also start looking at the 24-year-old and go, what do we fix like with the 24-year-old if we can fix something so that he can carry the club for the next 3 years, And so for all those reasons, I know I probably haven't convinced some of you, but for those reasons, I still think that Talent Mbata is going to rank very highly in the midfield of Orlando Pirates still, and I can see a scenario in which he starts ahead of Nduli or the other options. And then at number 10, again, it's another one where I go, I don't know, because we saw Patrick Maswanganyi play at right wing. Now, we've had massive departures at right wing. Obviously, you don't need me to say we've lost Saling, we've lost Nkota in that position. We've signed Sibilibili, we've signed Moremi, who else have we signed? We've signed Ozona Polis, and we've also promoted Neo Mokoena as well. Neo Mokoena wasn't part of preseason. Ozona Polis didn't play a lot of minutes in preseason. In fact, the minutes that he played on the left. We rather saw Mufukeng play on the right. But still, we saw Mofokeng play more minutes on the left than on the right, which makes me want to say that I think we're going to see Mofokeng on the left rather than the right. And so my guess is at right wing, we're probably going to see Moremi. If we don't see Moremi, I don't think we're going to see Sibilibili because he wasn't part of preseason. Maybe in the last behind closed doors game, he did play Sibilibili, but he hasn't like got the number of minutes that all these other players have got, but Moremi does. And the other alternative, someone we saw play, but for one game, is Patrick Maswanganyi played at right wing. And while he was at right wing, we saw someone like Cameron Danson play as a number 8 or / number 10 in behind the striker. We saw Snokolo Kwaiba play there as well. So there's a shout for something like that where, you know, Maswanganyi could play on the right, and you could have someone like Dlamini play as a number 10. You could have Danson as a surprise package start the season. You could have Silepe play with Sipombule at number 6, but I'm going to stick to my talent there, but a shout. But you could have Danson play as a number 10. You could have Karim Kimvidi play there. I mean, there's a lot we can see. You could see Kimvidi play on the left and Mofokeng on the right, and then you could see Maswanganyi play centrally. And obviously with that 3, you know, you can interchange them as well. But I think here's what I'm going to go for. My guess is he's going to play with Moremi. We saw, like, something is telling to me in that the first lineup he put out, first game of preseason, first 45 minutes, it seemed like a very strong lineup. It had Moremi on the right, it had Mofokeng on the left, it had Maswanganyi as a number 10. I'm going to stick with that. I think that's what he's going to go with. And as the number 9, again, because we saw a lot of him play in preseason, and again, with him as well, the first lineup he put out in preseason, we saw Radio Pane play as number 9. And I think he's the one that's going to play there as well. So that's how I think Orlando Pirates is going to line up. In the way of Polokwane City, I can't really say. I think maybe a few surprises, maybe. I don't know. But I think we can expect a similar Polokwane City to the one that we know. I think they're going to line up in the way that we know them. I don't expect like massive surprises in the way of like their lineup. I think we're going to see the same names, Kambala, you know, we're going to see Matuludi, we're going to see Nkwe at left back, Nigani, and then Rapadu, Ramabu up front. I wonder if Cole Alexander is still there. But I think in the way of like their lineup, we're probably going to see something that we've already seen. Obviously, they've lost Ozonapolis. I think maybe in place of him, we'll see Dlamini play there. And yeah, I think just up front, threats obviously being Ramabu and Rapadu. On the break, trying to catch us on the break, trying to hold up play and then hit us on the break with speed, with transition. Like, as soon as they win the ball back, try to attack us as quickly as possible. And I think because this is something that we're going to see a lot of this entire season from all kind of different teams, it's an eventuality that I think Orlando Pirates can deal with. They're already planning for, they already know how to deal with it. They've already thought about it. And so I would give Orlando Pirates a win for this one. Yeah, but football is football and we shall see. But anyway, let me leave it here. I am tired. I feel that I'm going on for long and long and long. I look forward to seeing, you know, you Buccaneers out here on Saturday. But until then, up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video from Talking Buccaneers. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our future content.